Alright everyone, this is Matt here on the Vinyl Head UK channel. And of course, it's that time of week again. It's time to jump back into some more download festival memories. Now, we are on the back of the download pilot weekend. I hope everyone that attended had an incredible time. I've heard lots of stories and pictures and all sorts shared already. And it looks like it was a complete hit. It even rained. Would it be Donington without a bit of rain? I don't know. But yeah, share any stories you have of it on the comments. Anybody that went, it's looking good for music to be back, festivals, gigs to be back. It seems very, very positive. But let's get back onto this series. We are now on Download 2011. Now, I have to level with you guys. It wasn't my favourite download. Bar maybe the first day, I didn't think the lineup was that strong. And you'll hear a little bit more about, the Sunday, when we get to it, you'll hear what happened for us on the Sunday. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the strongest one. It was a shame because it was sandwiched between two really great strong years with 2010 and 2012. But the lineup isn't always going to be great for my personal preferences. I'm sure for some it was the best download, depending what you're into. But of course, we will look at it all. I try and remember as many memories as I can, share who I saw, everything like that. As per normal, I have the lineup next to me just to make sure I get the right bands on the right year and remember who I've forgotten and, everything else like that. But let's kick it off. It was a rainy weekend. The Friday wasn't too bad. We had some sun. It wasn't too bad on the Friday and it gradually got wetter. Friday evening, the rain came, and then that carried on, and Sunday was a washout, muddy and horrible. And I've said before, I said last week, it doesn't matter if it rains. We had rain on the Sunday the year before. We made the most out of it. But I think that was also, due to the fact that there was a load of bands I wanted to see. When there's not really anyone you want to see, and it's raining, it's not so fun, But I tell you what, let's look at who headlined as per normal. So, Friday, making an reappearance. They hadn't long been headlining 2009, I'm going to say, I think it was. No, not 2009. Whenever it was. Back by popular demand, Def Leppard. Headlining the main stage on the Friday. On the Saturday, another band. In fact, all three of these headliners we'd already seen at Download before. The main stage headliner for the Saturday was System of a Down, who we'd seen in 2005. And then on the Sunday, I think this is their third headliner slot at Donington. None other than Linkin Park. So Def Leppard, System of a Down, and Linkin Park. Now, as I say, for me, not the strongest headliners. Never really been a Def Leppard fan. System of a Down, I like System of a Down. It's a strong musical memory when I was getting my way into hard rock and metal. Toxicity, of course, the album. I was a teen at the time and, listening to that record, I loved it. I've never seen a great System show, I have to say. And then again, Linkin Park, a bit like System. They were a gateway band into hard rock and metal. Hybrid Theory, Meteora as well to a degree. But, in more recent years, kind of went a bit more radio rocky, poppy. Not for me. So, kind of gone off Linkin Park. It's not a band. I know we've obviously lost Chester, but, if they come back and carry on as a band, it's not one that I think I would jump to go and see. I'd probably want to go and see someone else on a different stage if they come back and headliner again. But that was our main stage headliners. Now, who else did we have across the board? As per normal, let's put it up, there we go. We have all of our other headliners. We'll go through those. Again, we've had 5 stages to 2011. I guess 4 kind of proper stages, and then an acoustic stage, which saw some of the bands playing main stage, second stage, coming over and doing acoustic sets on. So main stage was called main stage. We didn't have a name as such for it. Second stage was known as second stage. Again, we didn't really have a name for it. Third stage was the Pepsi Max stage. The fourth stage is back. The Red Bull Bedroom Jam stage, that mouthful of a stage, is our fourth stage. And then the Jägermeister acoustic stage as that fifth stage, the small acoustic stage. Friday, as I say, Def Leppard, main. Second stage, coming back into a headliner slot, we have Pendulum, who put on probably one of my favourite second stage headliner slots that I've seen. That was a hell of a show. We'll go on to that. On the third stage, headlining was Danzig. Fourth stage was Mode Step. These are some names from the past. And then Skindred were headlining the acoustic stage on the Friday night. Of course, they were playing on main stage the next day. Saturday, System of a Down, as I say, on main. Alice Cooper was our second stage headline. A pretty big name, Alice Cooper. Funeral for a Friend were third stage. I feel like they had significantly dropped. Yes, they're still headlining, which is great for any band. But, you know, a few years before, they'd gone from sub-headlining main to Guns N' Roses to third stage headliners. So it's a bit of a drop, but, you know, let's not knock them. You know, they're still headlining the stage. Dangerous, I don't know that band. That was our fourth stage headliner. And then Bowling for Soup were headlining the acoustic stage on the Saturday. Again, another band that was going to be playing main stage the next day. Linkin Park on the Sunday main. Rob Zombie. This was a big deal. Rob Zombie was back playing in the UK again after many years away. Leading up to this download, the downloads prior, every year you'd get the rumour and the people talking about, would Rob Zombie be back? Would he be on the download bill? And finally he was on there. Frank Turner was our third stage headliner on the Sunday. Frank's just played the Pilot Festival. Heard good things. Heat on the fourth stage. And then Dave McPherson, who I believe was the In Me vocalist, or is the In Me vocalist, I think. He was our acoustic headliner on the Sunday there. Now let's go through, as we always do, I'm going to go through what I can remember, who I saw, talk about it a little bit. Of course, again, we were still in what is our current location. We'd moved there the year before and we've stayed there ever since, so no real need to talk about that. Obviously the main stage where it is, you've got that row of trees, and then the second stage sat behind it. Third and fourth stage and the acoustic stage have juggled around the layout a little bit. On the whole, main and second have stayed where they are, so we don't really need to cover all that too much. But let's kick it off. Friday, when the weather wasn't too bad until the evening, but the weather during the day was quite nice. Kicking off main stage was CKY. A lot of you will know CKY. Anyone that watched Jackass or Viva La Bam, if you remember that, with Bam Margera, would know about CKY. I was never a big CKY fan. It was cool to kind of see him and say, yeah, I've seen CKY, but never really a fan. I couldn't really name you any of their stuff, any material of theirs. But as I say, it was kind of cool to at least say I've seen CKY. A band I am more familiar with were after, and that is Puddle of Mud. Now, Puddle of Mud, kind of, I guess you could lump them a bit into the new metal category initially with that first record. Not maybe as new metal-y sounding as some of the other stuff. Look at Linkin Park and Korn and all those type of bands. But I guess you could kind of throw them in there to a degree into those, into that subgenre at least. Over the years, up and down, more downs I would say with the band. Wes Scantlin, the vocalist, has a lot of alcohol problems that have been documented. I've seen some press recently about the band. It seems that maybe a new album or a single or something is coming from them. But I mean, I said on one of the previous episodes about the Seether vocalist very much channeling his inner Kurt Cobain. I think that's something that Puddle of Mudd do to a degree as well. Wes Scantlin, I think, must have been quite the Kurt Cobain and Nirvana fan in his youth, and probably still now. Come Clean was that initial album, and this, from memory, from what I remember, this was quite a heavy Come Clean set with She Hates Me and Blurry and Control and all the tracks, lead tracks at least, from that. It's the album I probably am most familiar with. They did do a covers album a few years ago, and they did one of the tracks off that, and that was TNT by AC/DC. Now, of course, it wasn't going to match the Friday the year before when we had, you know, proper AC/DC, but I always think, you know, as long as they don't slaughter a cover, Avril Lavigne doing Fuel at the Metallica Icon show, that was a slaughter, in my opinion. But as long as they don't slaughter the track, I don't mind hearing these known songs by bands. It's something to sing along to, you know. Not everyone might be familiar with Puddle of Mudd stuff, so to hear TNT, it's something to sing along to and drink your beer to and everything, so I don't mind it too much. They didn't slaughter this track. It's not the greatest. It's not AC/DC, let's put it like that, but it was still cool. He wasn't too bad that day. I know there's other gigs that have been documented where he's been absolute state, a bit like Marilyn Manson has been when I've seen him, but he wasn't too bad that day. After Puddle of Mudd, we had Duff McKagan. Duff McKagan's Loaded. Of course, we know Duff from Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver. Duff was doing his solo material, so he is fronting the band, doing vocals, playing his bass as well. Very punky style. I think Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses was the punk in the band. I've seen him do punk panels and interviews and stuff. I think that is very much his background. He's got a very punky approach to his vocals. If you were looking, so when Slash has played, we hear a lot of Guns N' Roses and the odd bit of Velvet Revolver and whatnot thrown in. If you were expecting a cover-heavy set from Duff McKagan, you probably would have been a bit disappointed. We did get covers. I think, I'm not massively up on my punk, but I think we got a Misfits cover, or The Damned, or The Clash, someone like that. Forgive me, I'm not really into punk. But then, to close the set, we did get It's So Easy. Of course, Guns N' Roses track. Again, very different vocal approach to Axl. This is very punky sounding from Duff. But again, it's something we can sing along to. We're not all going to be familiar with Duff McKagan's solo project and his material. We're all going to know him from the bass player from Guns N' Roses. So to do a song that we can sing along with and everybody is going to know, you know, I like that, as I say. It gets people on board with the band. That was Duff McKagan. This was a pretty good day, really, I think, going through these bands. A lot of these bands on main, I was pretty happy seeing. After Duff McKagan was Blackstone Cherry, a band I love, one of my favourite bands. I know my music with rock and metal is quite diverse. I was covering a Deicide record the other day with my vinyl. I've had like Bloodbath records arrive with me, but then at the same hand, one of my favourite bands is Blackstone Cherry. I don't like to pigeonhole myself into subgenres. I'm big on thrash. I don't just want to listen to thrash. I don't just want to listen to death. I want to listen to music that I like. And I think that's really important to remember. So if I want to listen to Black Stone Cherry after Deicide, I will. Don't have a problem with that, remember. So Black Stone Cherry. Now, the first time I saw Black Stone Cherry at Download, I didn't care for them all that much. I walked off. I wasn't bothered. But then something clicked, and since that moment, I've been a big Black Stone Cherry fan. And again, it was great seeing this band once again being up on Main at Donington. They were on the Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, I think the album was. They were on that tour. So a few tracks from that, which again, it's a great record. I do not mind them playing anything off that. This was at the point they were doing an Adele cover as well, of all things. I've seen a couple of bands doing Adele covers. Rolling in the Deep, I think Linkin Park have done it. And Black Stone Cherry did it, Rolling in the Deep by Adele. And they didn't do it bad, to be honest. They also, this day, did the Blame It on the Boom Boom video. So if you've ever seen that video, it's not a live sounding recording, it's a studio recording, but put on footage from that Download set. There's some other stuff. I always talk about this one, but the Paradise City video, you know, it's a studio recording, but at the same time, you know, you see the live footage, and that's kind of what it was with the Blame It on the Boom Boom video. But it's cool that, you know, it was at Download. You could say you've been in a Black Stone Cherry video, sort of. You know, I'm that little dot in the middle of 60,000 people. Yeah, I'm in the video. Again, you know what you're going to get from a Black Stone Cherry show. A lot of energy, great vocals, great guitars, an incredible drummer. And it's good music to listen to, and I think Black Stone Cherry have done a very good job of turning people onto their music through these Download shows. They are now in a position where they're actually sub-headlining. Back in 2018, I think it was, when they sub-headlined to Guns N' Roses. Big deal for a band like that. You know, you've only got one band above you, and that is Guns N' Roses. As big a band as Guns N' Roses are, you know, that's pretty cool thing for the band. Following Black Stone Cherry, an older band, and that was Thin Lizzy. Now, Thin Lizzy have come in kind of different guises, I guess. So I think really they're kind of Black Star Riders now, aren't they? But this was classed as Thin Lizzy. Obviously, we had members from Thin Lizzy. I think Ricky Warwick was actually on vocals. I got to see Thin Lizzy as Thin Lizzy a couple of times without being Black Star Riders. Obviously not with Phil Lynott. That would have been very cool, but unfortunately that is now impossible for us. But this was very much a greatest hit set. Jailbreak, Whiskey in the Jar, The Boys Are Back in Town. You know, the tracks that you're going to know by the band. They actually brought Vivian Campbell from Def Leppard on, I think, for The Boys Are Back in Town, if I remember correctly. Which was cool. You know, it's one of those things I've spoke about where bands will bring on guest musicians who are on the same day or next day or whatever with them. I think that's quite a cool bit about the festivals and Download, that you do get these collaborations that you may not get a chance to see again or have ever happened before. So yeah, we got Vivian Campbell out. Obviously he was playing with Def Leppard that evening. He came out early and jammed out a little bit with Thin Lizzy. Another band I love that I was very excited to see that day, that I'm a big fan of, were Alter Bridge. And they were back on the AB3 tour, so the third album of theirs. They had grown and grown with their sound. They had got better and better as their albums went on. I like all of their albums, but you can definitely see a band that grows from album to album. The music sounds a lot more mature. the tracks are more in depth. I really like Alter Bridge, and I love Miles' voice. We've been very lucky to see a lot of Miles at Download, whether that is with Alter Bridge or with Slash. I know he was due to play in 20 and I believe 21 doing his solo stuff. We actually had a couple of sets booked for 21, doing a solo set and then a Miles and Friends set. Who his friends would have been, I don't know, but it sounded like it would have been a cool thing to go and check out. But here we were with Alter Bridge, and despite being Alter Bridge 3, the tour cycle we were on, we got a very heavy Blackbird set, which again, I do not mind. There's not really any albums of Alter Bridge that I wouldn't mind them playing stuff off. I'm down for any album that they want to play material off. They open with Isolation, which is obviously the opening track from the third album, which I think is a really cool track. It starts with just that sort of murmuring guitar, very softly sort of sung vocal line from Miles before it hits you in the face, and we're off, we're into that set, and I love that as an opening track in the set. I think it works really well. But we also had some kind of deeper cuts maybe, or if not deeper cuts, stuff that you maybe wouldn't hear so often live. Find the Real, which is the opening track off the first album, which I love, and I don't think they really play it all that much these days. They did Ghosts of Days Gone By. They did off Blackbird, they did White Knuckles, which is another track I don't think we really hear all that often anymore. So it was quite a nice set. Obviously, we were basing it off just 3 albums, so, you know, could pick between the songs. They had less songs to play, as they, you know, what are they on, 6, 7 albums now? So it was cool to hear those tracks, and I really like this set list. It's a really solid set list. It maybe not would have been for everyone because they were playing some of the stuff that's a little bit deeper on the records. But for me, I loved it. I had a great time for that set. Following, we go into a bit of British rock, British pomp and glam. The Darkness were back, sub-headlining on our main stage. Now, this was classed as a reunion. The Darkness, as you all, I'm sure, will know, were massive back in 2003, 2004. Permission to Land had come out, and we hadn't really seen anything like this for a long time. There were all sorts of comparisons, even to the likes of Queen. You know, not saying the Darkness are anywhere near as good as Queen in their heyday, but the pomp and the over-the-topness of Justin Hawkins and the band. I saw them when they were at their peak, when I was a wee nipper. Saw them on the arena tours. You know, I followed the crowd, I have to say, on that one. I watched them. It was so cheesy and so over the top. I watched Justin Hawkins riding a massive white tiger over my head while soloing. If that's not cheese, I don't know what is. But then they kind of capitulated, and that was for Darkness. They were massive, and that was that. They were gone. But this was classed as a reunion. I believe this was their first show back. If not their first, it was an early on show. And they were sub-headlining Maine. It was a very heavy set on Permission to Land. I do not remember at this point how many albums they had put out. But it was very heavy on Permission to Land, which, you know, I think everyone will know a lot of tracks off that one. It was a big album. It sold massively. I couldn't really tell you many other tracks of The Darkness that aren't off Permission to Land. But that was a big deal for them. And to hear those tracks was fun. It was I know it was only 2011 and, you know, this stuff was coming out sort of 2003, but it almost felt quite nostalgic. I've talked about when I've seen Limp Bizkit and they play anything off Chocolate Starfish, that feels quite nostalgic to me. And it kind of felt the same with hearing this Permission to Land stuff. I remember, I'm sure it's this set, but I remember during I Believe in a Thing Called Love, on the part where it's the clapping and just for drums when he's doing a chorus, I'm sure the sound, front of house sound cut. We didn't lose the sound on stage, band kept going, but I'm sure we just slightly lost front of house sound. Maybe that's me remembering it wrong. Let me know if you were there and you remember it. Share your comments. But yeah, of all the points for the sound to go, you know, it's a shame it's that one. Going off on a little tangent, I do love to go off on my tangents. I remember the only other time that the sound's gone where it's not have meant to have gone, you know, I've talked about bands having their sound cut, was the last time I saw Metallica in Birmingham. And they had just started onto the heavier, faster passage of One, on that back half of One. And the sound went. We lost all the PA. Metallica had to stop for a few minutes. But I don't remember many instances of all the gigs and whatnot I've seen. I don't remember many instances of PA going. But there we go. I didn't watch Def Leppard. I tell a lie, I watched the last two songs from right at the back because we went to second stage at this point and we caught the sub-headliner who were Korn. Korn were quite the download regular at this point. They were playing more often than not. They were there most years. And Korn were back. They were second stage sub-headliner, which I think to some people was quite controversial. We've seen a main stage sub-headline, and I think a lot of people were a little bit peeved that they were sub-headlining second. They weren't actually headlining the stage. Korn very much have made the main stage sub-headliner their own slot. It's a bit like Deftones. Korn always seemed to be in that slot. We had, of course, seen them headline second stage back in 2007 when they were up against My Chemical Romance. But now they dropped a place, but, you know, that was for people to argue with at the time. We still had, I always talk about, we still had a second guitarist who wasn't technically with a band. He stood behind a stack of amps, just to the side of Ray Luzier's kit. That was his place. We still didn't have Head back. It wasn't too much longer before he was back and playing with the band again. We opened with Blind, and then we went into Here to Stay. You can't fault that intro, really. Blind. If there's ever a track to properly get the crowd going, with the build, you know, with that ride cymbal hitting the bell, you know, just a build up and then everyone losing their mind into Blind, and then to go into that ridiculously heavy riff of Here to Stay, then you end the set there for me. I'm happy. I'm happy with that. We got little snippets, as we sometimes do. We had some Pink Floyd thrown in. We had One, just mentioned One, thrown in as well, coming off Chutes and Ladders. And then we had something I've never seen Korn do before or since, and they did a real big medley of about 6-7 songs in their encore as such, covering across right across the album board, and just snippets into this big long medley, which was quite cool, you know, to hear chunks of other stuff that they maybe not had fit into their set. Maybe they would have if they were headlining, but they weren't, so it was cool to see, definitely cool to see. But then, our headliner, I mentioned about this set briefly at the start of this video, and that is Pendulum. I wasn't a fan of Pendulum. My friend Jenny, the first time Pendulum played Download on the second stage, was like, come and see him, Matt, come and see him. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I went, I liked it. I saw him again on Main, a couple of years later, and they were back playing a second stage headliner. They had full production. They were up on a kind of a walkway platform, the whole band, up above the stage, like on the stage, but not, they were stood above the stage, if that makes sense, on this big long strip walkway. And with full production, it was amazing. A band like that needs production. A band like that is lost in the middle of a day with the sun. You need a full production for a band like Pendulum or The Prodigy, someone like that. And they were so good. The rain had come at this point. It wasn't the strong... Well, they were on the second album, whatever album it was, which I didn't listen to as much. I was more familiar, I don't know the name of it, but the album that had Propane Nightmares and all of that sort of stuff on. Love that album. Not so much for albums following. So they had some stuff off that, so I didn't like the set list as much. But they still, played, Propane Nightmares and Granite and the stuff you'd expect. I remember they were playing Blood Sugar, and they dropped in Voodoo People, which they have before. Now, there is a video of that on YouTube. Go and watch that and listen to the crowd when they go into Voodoo People. It is like we're in the Euros right now. When England score and there's that, or any team scores and there's that eruption of noise from the crowd, that's what came out of the crowd as they went into Voodoo People. It was wild, talk about all the metal pits and all the metal crowd. That crowd was just as crazy as a metal crowd. But oh my, I remember it made your hair stand on end how good it was when, especially like I say, Blood Sugar, and they went into that Voodoo People part. But oh, the noise, just go and watch that video, please. But it was such a good set. It was such a good evening. Great way to cap off the day. It was the best day of the weekend by a mile. I didn't rate Saturday, Sunday's lineup really very much. But the Friday made up for it, Blackstone Cherry and Thin Lizzy, Alter Bridge. The Darkness were fun, then Korn, Pendulum. It was a good day for me. I enjoyed it. Looking across the board, as we always do, we talk about who else played across the weekend. We start on our second stage, of course. And, there were some good bands that I didn't actually go and see on the second stage that day. The Damned Things were back, so that super group as such, with Scott Ian from Anthrax and Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die. I love Every Time I Die. Such an amazing live band. Didn't get to see them. I never have got to see the Damned Thing, but it would have been quite cool to see those guys. Children of Bodom were on after, another good band. And then Bring Me the Horizon was starting to pop up that lineup a little bit higher. We'd seen them on third stage, lower down on second. They were up on before Korn, so they were heading in an upward trajectory. On the third stage, as I say, we had Danzig headlining. Asking Alexandria were on there, who was starting to slowly make a name for themselves. Royal Republic, who I believe opened up main stage a different year. Hyro, the Heroes. So again, we brought back another rapper. We'd had Lethal Bizzle back in 2008, and we brought back another rapper. Times of Grace. Who was that? Yeah, so that's the Killswitch guys' band, isn't it? I didn't realise they were playing. There we go. Killswitch, quite the regulars at Download. And I didn't realise Times of Grace had played, but there we go. Fourth stage, no one really stands out bar Don Broco, who again have done very well for themselves. Not a band that I really am into. Not really metal or anything like that. But, Glastonbury, Reading type band. And I see them up quite high on the lineups for those festivals. But, yeah, there they are, sort of midway fourth stage. So, interesting slot, seeing how they've Risen. And then our acoustic stage, the only one that stands out for me is Skindred. I couldn't imagine Skindred doing an acoustic slot, but there you go. They were, apparently. Interesting. Okay, so that wraps up our Friday. We're going to jump on to Saturday, rainy Saturday. Opening up main stage was... Oh no, I tell you what, I didn't start on main stage that day. Sorry, I got thrown because I noticed the reason I stopped was I noticed that High Road to Hero actually played twice. And I thought I was reading it wrong on the lineup. Let me get back into it. Okay. Second stage we started at on the Saturday. And that was with Sacred Mother Tongue. So a little bit of metal. Never rated them all that much, but a little bit of metal. And then Caphonic. Who were definitely metal. I think they're from Taiwan. Maybe. They're from that, around that area at least. Sort of... kind of, I won't say out and out black metal, more sort of, I guess you could say sort of more melodic than out and out black metal. They were good though. It was kind of not the typical band maybe you'd see it down there. You don't all really get much death or black metal. It's more obviously Bloodstock scene and the other European festivals, but not massively something we see all that much at Download. Unfortunately, I'd like to see a bit more. We've had moments. We've had Behemoth main stage. We've had Dying Fetus on main stage. But yeah, not something you see all that much. I believe that Caphonic are actually pretty massive back home. But yeah, I know they've done Bloodstock before, but it was good. It was a cool show. It was cool to see them. I really enjoyed their set. And it was getting that, as I say before, that bit of metal into you to start the day off. I didn't really see all that much this day. The Saturday and Sunday, I barely saw many bands, so this may be a little bit quicker than some of my other Download videos I've done. We're going to kind of rattle through this a little bit here, I think. But... the first band, so I'll tell you who was on main anyway that I didn't see, and that was The Devil Wears Prada, All That Remains, who weren't too bad, I didn't mind All That Remains, and Escape the Fate. The first band I saw was, of course, Skindred, who, as I say, had done that acoustic set the night before. But here they were on the main stage, so again, another band that has just played, actually... last night on the Pilot, they were sub-headlining to Bullet for My Valentine. So I'm sure that was a wild, incredibly fun set, as Skindred always do. Benji was wearing his big Union Jack jacket. He don't care. He don't care what he looks like. He is very much in your face with the hats and the glasses and the jackets. He's a man of style, no doubt, though. But we got, and I saw footage from it yesterday, but we got the first, I think, unless they did it at the acoustic set, we got our first Newport helicopter for Warning. So the record with Warning that it was on was out now. Obviously, we hadn't seen it at prior downloads. But it's very cool. Now, I spoke about Skindred before. They are just the ultimate festival band. I love seeing Skindred when they're at Download. They always put on such a great show, and Benji Webb is such an incredibly gifted just frontman. You know, he has the crowd in the palm of his hand. He is so funny. He gets the crowd so hyped, and the music just sits along with that. They're such a good festival band. If you're not really into Skindred, go and check them out. If you're at Download or any of the other festivals that they're playing, I think, again, they're doing Bloodstock this year if it goes ahead, which I hope it does. Go and see them. It might not be your cup of tea when you hear sort of reggae metal. it sounds like something that may not work, that a lot of people might not really like, but it does work, and they are so good at it. So good at it. It's always worth taking the time to go and check Skindred out when they play at Download or anywhere local to you. Go and watch Skindred. On after Skindred, another band I didn't see, and that was Hollywood Undead. They've played before, didn't like them the first time, wasn't bothered about seeing them again. On though was a band that I very much like, and that is the Mighty Down. Phil Anselmo and co. Now we didn't have Rex. Rex Brown had departed the band, so we only had one former Pantera member with us now, which of course Phil. Rest of the band as you'd expect at that point. We got a chorus of Walk, believe it or not, which was a surprise to see Down go into a bit of Pantera. It's not something that they normally do. Seen Pantera from, you know, when he's done his solo stuff, Phil, or it's in Damage Plan or Hell Yeah or whatever. But yeah, it's not something Down really do, go into a bit of Pantera, but it was very cool. It was quite a heavy set from Nola. I think Down were coming up, so I believe over the end was 2012 or around that time. So still mainly looking at material from the first couple of records. It was a very heavy Nola set, as I say, which is not a bad thing because Nola is a hell of a record. And this is where as well, I remember they started, I've spoke about it a little bit before, they started bringing out musicians to play the end of Bury Me in Smoke. Just carry on that riff while the band sort of does what they do at the end of a set, throw stuff out, you know, whatever, go to crowd. And this was Ghost that they actually brought on, the Nameless Ghouls, as they are known. Ghost were playing that weekend. They were actually playing that day. They had played already that day. But they brought on those Nameless Ghouls from Ghost and let them play out the end of Bury Me in Smoke. I know Phil is a big Ghost fan. There's a few quite well-known musicians that have been spotted in Ghost t-shirts. You know, Phil Anselmo, James Hetfield. I love Ghost. It took me a while to get into Ghost, I have to say. But I do like Ghost. It's very different. Some people hate it. Very Marmite band. But after a while, I got there. And I'm glad I did. But Ghost came out. And they closed off with Bury Me in Smoke. And again, you know what you're going to get from a Down show. It's going to be good. Phil might be a little drunk, but he's still a solid front man. He's a bit like Benji. He has the power to control. He's not as out there as Benji. You know, you won't see Phil in a Stars and Stripes jacket with wild glasses and hat and everything. You'll just get a metal guy, a metal fan in a band tee coming on, but he still has so much power over the crowd, and those riffs just so heavy. Such a great band, the Down. Following Down were another band that I didn't see, which was Skunk Anansie. Never really been a fan of Skunk Anansie. I went over to the second stage and I caught Dio Disciples, which was to a degree somewhat of a super group. Use that term kind of loosely a little bit, but a band that was doing Dio and Rainbow classic tracks. They didn't do a long set, but we got, you know, Stargazer, Heaven and Hell, Holy Diver, of course, stuff like that. Maybe like The Last in Line, maybe they played. I think Ripper Owens went on to sing from at some point. This wasn't with Ripper Owens. I forget who the vocalist was, but it was fun again to hear these classic Dio songs, whether it was his solo stuff or Rainbow. It was very cool. It was a nice sort of enjoyable half-hour set or so, maybe a little longer. Back over to main stage at this point, where we saw Avenged Sevenfold. So Avenged had worked their way up now to sub-headliner. Of course, they'd make that jump up to headliner a couple of years later. But sub-headliner, the Nightmare album had just come out. We didn't get, obviously, Mike Portnoy, coming and touring with them, which was a shame because I love Mike Portnoy as a drummer. He was on the records, so it was a relatively kind of heavy-ish Nightmare set. We got the track Nightmare, which I think they opened with. Welcome to the Family, tracks like that, and of course everything you'd expect. Beast and the Harlot, Unholy Confessions. It was a nice production as well. You had the feeling, I remember watching them and saying to people that I had the feeling that a jump to headliner wouldn't be that far off. And they did. I think it was 2014 actually, that they made the jump up to headliner, which a lot of people weren't sure about. But then a lot of people weren't sure when Slipknot made that jump. But just looking at the production and the strength of the songs, you had that feeling. You looked at it and thought, yeah, I can see this. I can see this being a headliner. And one of those bands to make the step up. It's a thing that I cover a little bit and talk in depth about with my friends. Who is going to make that jump up to headliner? A lot of these bands aren't going to be around a lot longer. Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Def Leppard. They're all of an age. You know, we're already seeing bands. I know they've come back, but Motley Crue had said they were gone. Black Sabbath have gone. Slayer have gone. Motorhead have gone. You know, a lot of these bands of an age that have the capability of being high up that bill aren't going to be with us for much more. And it's who to fill the void. And it's that funny argument with download fans. When they book in the same headliners, so if we get Def Leppard coming back, if we get Metallica or Iron Maiden coming back, a lot of people kick off, why is there no new blood? Why are no bands being pushed? And then when the bands do get pushed, everyone's like, where's Def Leppard? Where's Metallica? Where's Iron Maiden? So it's very fickle. But it's an interesting point. I mean, realistically, there are going to have to be new headliners pushed up. Andy Coppin and co have pushed bands that haven't headlined before. Muse are a band that could headline any festival. We got Muse. Biffy Clyro were pushed into that position and are back to do it again next year. Avenged, Slipknot, bands that have gone up there. I always think it's interesting to think who could also go up into that slot. There's a lot of bands that haven't played Download that are headliner material that could be booked in. Van Halen at one point would have been a hell of a coup to get. That's not likely going to happen anymore, what with Eddie Van Halen's death. Foo Fighters, Blink-182, Green Day, Paramore, these bands that haven't played. Nickelback you could probably throw in there, quite an interesting one what people would say about that. But these bands are headliner material. Pearl Jam were booked and then for whatever reason didn't do that year. These bands are all headliner material that haven't headlined before. So there is that can be sort of fallen back on. Fresh bands coming in for Download that haven't done it before. But then also, I think bands like Bring Me the Horizon, I've mentioned before. Alter Bridge, maybe Blackstone Cherry. Maybe someone say like Five Finger Death Punch. Bands like that. But then none of these bands for me are anywhere near as big and successful as the Metallicas and AC/DCs and Iron Maidens, Guns N' Roses. So it's an interesting, will those bands draw as much people in? Metallica and Iron Maiden, Guns N' Roses and AC/DC are always going to draw people in. Would Blackstone Cherry, would Bring Me the Horizon? Yes, they're bringing their fan base. But would they bring in the people that those bands mentioned before do? I think this could be an interesting video for another time. I won't go into it too much more, but maybe that's, I'll put a note to self. Maybe that'll be an interesting video to do for you guys down the line. Coming back onto topic though, we had Avenged and then we went into System of a Down. Now, I mentioned before, unfortunately, I've never really seen a great System show. I've been a little bit disappointed seeing System when I've seen them. We had a hell of a long set list. Again, this must have been 25, 30 tracks. So, you know, get bang for your buck with System. But I have a feeling this was the famous show where Serge Tankian had just got word that his dog had gone missing, or his dog had sadly died, and he wasn't really in the frame of mind for it. That may have been a different set, but I have a feeling it could have been this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. This, like The Darkness, was classed as a reunion tour. Now, System hadn't exactly gone for very long, you know, compared to other bands who come back. Like Rage Against the Machine or someone, that is a reunion to me. I didn't see this as a reunion because they'd not long been away. So it's kind of odd. It was like, you know, you see bands that have long gaps between albums. And they hadn't had a massive long gap between touring. So I couldn't really work out why it was classed as a reunion show. But I'm not management. I don't know. I remember them opening with Prison Song because they had a white drop down at the front of the stage. I remember the lighting behind it, the opening of Prison Song, and then going into it. The crowd went insane because there was System in front of us. But yeah, I don't know. I just always come away feeling a little empty after a System show when I've seen them. I've yet to come away and gone like, wow, that's the System I've always wanted to see. But again, you can't knock it. You get 25, 30 tracks off them. You're working your way really through probably over half of their back catalogue with the amount of albums they've done and the length of set list. And that was our Saturday. So I went and saw Saturday. Again, we looked through. So second stage, Rise to Remain. We had Clutch, great band. Mr. Big, Cheap Trick, Twisted Sister, and Alice Cooper. So quite a four to top off Saturday second. Mr. Big, Cheap Trick, Twisted Sister, Alice Cooper. Quite, if you're into your sort of 80s, almost kind of, I guess, glam rock and glam metal, you would have been in your element with your makeup and your big hair and your head of someone like Alice Cooper has and all of that, you know, wearing your lipstick like Dee Snider. You would have been in your element there. Third stage, we had Ghost, who, quite a low slot for Ghost, and they've risen up the ranks. I'm trying to stop myself talking about future headliners if I'm going to do a video on it, but I think Ghost, maybe Ghost on a Friday headliner, I could see that maybe. Let Live, always a hell of a live band, Let Live, in that tent, that would have been insane. Evil, Seven Dust, and then of course Funeral for a Friend, who I've spoken about already, closing off third stage. The fourth stage, the old Red Bull bedroom jam stage. No one really that stands out for me, so I'm kind of jump over that one. Sorry if there's anyone on there you like. And then the acoustic stage, Bowling for Soup, who we saw the next day. They're a band I think kind of suited for acoustic, just have a laugh and whatever with the music. And that wrapped up Saturday. We come on to Sunday and it was miserable. The weather was awful, really cold and wet and just crap, you know. The lineup this day didn't really do anything for me. I'm going to come on to what happened. Let's lay it out now. We went home early. We'd had enough. There wasn't anything really we wanted to see, sort of. None of the headliners massively I wanted to see, bar maybe Rob Zombie. I was never a big Rob Zombie fan. It was one that I just wanted to say I'd seen him live. So I actually went home early. We'd wet through. Nothing was fun anymore. There wasn't really any point to staying because there was nothing really that we really wanted to desperately see. So we went. Shame to say. Flame me all you want, but It wasn't for us. I'll whip through who we did see very quickly. So we opened up on main stage with Suicide Silence and then into Biohazard. Biohazard were quite cool. Not a band I would have probably expected to really see on the main stage at Download, but there we are. Nice bit of hardcore to kick off our day after Suicide Silence. Medina Lake were back. Didn't see them. Couldn't stand them. Didn't see them. Bowl of a Soup again were with us, and again I've said before, it's a great festival band, a bit like Skindred, not as good a show as Skindred, but Bowl of a Soup, they provide laughs. If you've got sort of 70,000-80,000 metalheads there, you want to entertain them, and that is Bowling for Soup's strong point. They do entertain. They've got catchy songs, you can sing along with the songs, but sort of the banter between songs is fun, you know. It's a good laugh. It's a good time. Following Bowling for Soup were the Pretty Reckless with Taylor Momsen. So if you've ever seen The Grinch, the little girl from The Grinch, can you believe that that is a singer from the Pretty Reckless? She definitely grew up. But she was actually, they weren't too bad. This was on the first album, which I think was called Light Me Up. I think that was the name of the first album. And so everything was off that album. I think they did an EP before, but everything was off this album. There's a couple of tracks I like off that album. Make Me Wanna Die, Going Down, I think it's called. Good tracks. I remember she had some technical issues, but give her the benefit of the doubt. I mean, she soldiered on. She did really well. She was having some real in-ear monitor problems and mix problems, and she carried on. And you know, it's very easy to probably throw a strop and do an Axl Rose, but she was very professional. Give her a due. You know, it wasn't a bad set. You know, middle of the road sort of hard rock songs, nothing cutting edge, nothing that you haven't heard before. But it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad a set at all. We jumped over to second stage. That was actually the last band that we saw on the main stage all weekend, was a Pretty Reckless. And we caught, I don't think we saw Gua. I've only seen Gua once, and definitely didn't see him that day, but we caught Teresa's, my friend Andy, who I always mention, big Teresa's fan, so we went and checked those guys out. Not too much from me to comment on that, wasn't the biggest fan. We got the Rasputin cover thrown in, but I couldn't really tell you much more about it. You know, still kind of a cult following though. A lot of the guys dressed up in the red, you know, battle paint, war paint, and you know, had the probably drinking mead or something. I don't know where they would have got mead from on site, but it probably would have been overpriced had it been on site. But yeah, it's kind of a cult following for Teresa's. And then actually, the second last band that we saw was Buckcherry. Don't massively remember all of that much from their set. And then Black Veil Brides, who I've never liked. It's not for me. It's, in the greatest respect possible here, it's teenage girl music is best way I can probably describe it. Like a manufactured pop act, but with a heavier sound, is how I would describe Black Veil Brides. I always stress I don't want to slag off bands and I don't want to slag off music, because there are plenty of people out there who really love these bands, and these bands mean a massive amount to them. I love bands and they mean a massive amount to me, and I wouldn't like hearing people sort of slag them off or whatever on a platform like this. So I don't want to do it. I will sort of say it's not for me. But yeah, that's kind of how I see Black Veil Brides. That was the turning point for us, where we went, yeah, I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm muddy. Should we call it a day? Yeah, let's go home early and just dry up. It was a miserable day. We ummed and ahed because Rob Zombie was obviously headlining. It was a big deal for Rob Zombie to be back playing in the UK again after, you know, so many years away. And that was kind of a like, do we stay for that? Luckily, he's come back a few times to Donington and played since, so it's kind of made up for it. But, you know, we weighed up our options and it was enough for us. Disturbed, Bullet for My Valentine and Linkin Park were all that remained on main. Never massively been into any of those bands. The Cult and Rob Zombie were all that was left on second. Again, not massive on those guys. And across the board, there wasn't really anyone that I desperately want to stop and stay and to see. So we called it a day. Going through the rest of the day on the other stages, Malefice, High Road to Hero was back again on second. That's why I stumbled earlier, because I thought I saw his name again. Cavell Attack have just done a big run with Metallica, or a couple of years ago, on their tour. Not massive on them. Gua, Teresa's, I mentioned the rest of the bands on second. Third stage, again, nothing really that stands out for me. Frank Turner headline, we had the Plain White Tees, Def Havana. Yeah, nothing all that much. Same goes for the fourth stage. Nothing really on there that stands out. No one that sort of catches my eye that I think, you know, they've gone up to bigger and better things. His name's there again. He played 3 times. I keep seeing his name. So acoustic stage, we had likes of Heaven's Basement, a really good band. Slaves to Gravity, Dave McPherson. We had High Road to Hero for a 3rd time. Oh my. That man got everywhere that weekend. There he was on the acoustic stage. He was really trying to push himself out, wasn't he? I think he played every day then in that case, yeah. 3rd stage Friday. And then, he played twice on the Sunday in that case. So 3 times from High Road to Hero. Who would have thought we'd be talking about him so much on this video? But that wrapped up Sunday, and that wrapped up a soggy, miserable download. I think it's a shame that the lineup wasn't as strong, but it made up for it the year gone. 2010, where we had AC/DC and Rage Against the Machine and Aerosmith. And then the following year, which I'll come on to, but of course we have Black Sabbath and Metallica. So 2 really strong years either side, but not so much on 2011. But we're not going to win it all. There's not always going to be bands that you really love, that you want to see. I would go every year regardless, because it's download. But there we have it. That was 2011. A little bit shorter, this one, just because we rattled through the Sunday somewhat at the end there. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, please go and hit that subscribe button. Go and hit the like button. Click the bell for all notifications. I'll be back later this week. We've got some more vinyl videos to share. I've had a bit of a haul come in to me recently. Lots more vinyl to add to my collection, which I'm really excited about sharing with all of you at home. But of course, until then, I'll be back next week. Same time, 8 o'clock on Monday, where we will look at 2012 and Sabbath and Metallica and everybody else. But until then, look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later.